If I was sitting down to create a program for a brand new nutrition client, here are 3 things I would avoid. And wait, listen to those 3 things, but also hang around to the end of this video because you're gonna watch me start up a nutrition client. Let's start with number 1. You're giving them way too much. When you're first getting a client started, which is the onboarding process, you're getting them into your systems and how you approach coaching. You wanna give them everything that they need to work with you and to get results, but you don't wanna give them too much. When a coach first starts working with a nutrition client, they wanna provide tons of value. This means giving them all the guides and grocery lists, all the different handouts and tracking how-tos, all of this information. And they're passing this stuff along because they care and they want to do a good job, which I totally understand. But giving them too much information, especially at the beginning, can be setting them back. Your main job at the beginning of the coaching relationship is to understand your client's goals and to come up with a simple plan to help them achieve them. And you can do this by making small tweaks and small changes to what they're currently doing, not a drastic overhaul. Your client may think they need to start over and throw out everything in their pantry and buy completely new foods, but generally this isn't the case. They need to eat more protein, eat more whole foods, and prepare more of their own food themselves. And if they can do all of this while being mindful of their food choices, they're gonna move closer to their goals. And you can do this by creating a simple, basic structure and not overloading them with everything that they could need. This exact scenario just came up in one of our Dr. Mark Method nutrition coaching calls. We're working with a bunch of nutrition coaches and they're curious about this onboarding process and what each coach gives and what they provide and how much information. This one coach in our program is an amazing coach and she does such a fantastic job of giving her clients more and providing value. And she was talking about creating a new guide for her clients. This would be the 3rd or 4th thing that she gives to her clients at the beginning and she attaches to their starting email. And she was starting to wonder why people weren't following through with her coaching, or they were dropping off after the first month, or ghosting altogether. And it's because she was giving them way too much at the beginning. You can address this stuff down the road on a week-to-week basis, depending on what they're doing and to keep them engaged. It doesn't need to come all at once. You can meet the client where they're at, give them only what they need to act on, because your job as a coach is to give them what they need to focus and remove all the distractions and remove all the noise. Obviously, each and every client is going to be different. If you have someone that's never tracked their intake before and they need more guides and they need more hand-holding and direction, then give that to them. But you don't need to give everything in the kitchen sink to each and every client, because it could be a distraction, it could be the thing that's holding them back. Number 2, the next mistake I would avoid making is starting them at quote unquote optimal. If I was to say there was one mistake that many new nutrition coaches make when they create a plan for clients, it's this. They create a plan based on where their client should be and not where they're at. And they do this because they're trying to apply the science of nutrition and what would be optimal for their clients. Let's take protein for example. Many clients are gonna need to eat more protein to reach their body composition goals. And what this looks like is many clients eating between 1.5 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, or 0.7 to 1 grams per pound for our American friends. When you assess clients before working with them, you'll notice that many of them are nowhere close to this. So what do? If you're a coach of the science, you want to get them to optimal as quick as possible. But if you set a protein target that's way higher than they're used to, it's going to be nearly impossible for them to get to, and they're gonna be discouraged and they're not gonna be able to do it. So what you wanna do is set a protein target, not based on where the client should be, but some distance between where they are right now and what would be optimal. Somewhere in the middle, something that's realistic and they can build on. Remember, you don't need to fix these things or change them overnight. You're gonna have weeks and months with these people. You can adjust this type of stuff week to week and get to a place that's much better, but you're never gonna get there unless you have people doing the right things. Now with my clients, I use a tracking-based approach because it's going to get them results. So we set targets based on calories and macronutrients. Now I don't want to abandon that altogether or back off that too far, but I wanna set values that are based on where the client is at and not necessarily what the textbook is saying they should be doing. It's the same thing with calorie levels, especially with clients that want to lose weight. If you set calorie levels, even in a deficit, based on what the textbook says a client should be doing, it's gonna be way too much food for them. And that's not because 1,800 calories is actually too much food, but you're not factoring in the fact that there's a big discrepancy between what someone should be doing and what they're actually doing, especially at the beginning of a coaching relationship. So you'd be much better off factoring in what they're actually doing right now and setting a target based on that, versus just blindly going in and trusting what a formula says or what the science says they should be doing. And the number 3 mistake to avoid here is no expectations or clear structure. Instead of giving so much information and value at the beginning of the coaching relationship, you'd be better off spending time and energy training your clients on how to interact and work with you. Many coaches are so excited to get this process started that they overload their clients, but they don't really tell them how they'll be working with them. They just say, here's everything you need and contact me if you have any issues and we'll check in next week, when they in reality should be breaking down the process of working with them. Here are your food targets. This is what it's going to look like, and your check-in day is going to be on this day. Here's what a check-in is going to look like, with a great example of how I want you to correspond with me. Once I get that information, I'm gonna respond within 24 hours. I'm gonna include a Loom video as well as an action item for what you need to be doing next. If you miss your check-in, that's okay, but here's what's going to happen next. I'm happy to chat outside of your check-ins, but when possible, please include all the relevant information to help me coach you during the check-in process. This is when I've set time aside to coach you and have all the information in front of me to be the most effective coach possible for you. Spend time and energy around setting the tone for the coaching relationship and what you expect from them and what the client should expect from you, and you'll get much better results. Now, in order to scale up this process, you should be creating onboarding materials that you can work off of and copy from, so you're not always doing this from scratch. Now, there are many coaching softwares that can package this stuff all together for you and deliver this information, as well as charge your clients and deliver all that stuff. Shout out to our friends at LogEat for a great all-in-one nutrition coaching software that does all of this stuff. But if you're just getting started, you can do this more in a bootstrapped capacity, which means creating your own templates that you'll copy and paste into emails, which will save you time. And you can start to streamline your coaching process that way before moving on to coaching software. And there you go. That's my headspace as I go into creating a new nutrition plan for a brand new client, as well as 3 mistakes to avoid. Try not to give them way too much information, onboarding overload, set the plan based on where they are and not just what would be optimal, and set clear expectations and structure right from the beginning. Now, you may want to watch me do this with a brand new client. Let me show you that. Okay, so this is my client, Amy. We've been working with each other now for maybe 3 or 4 months, but this was our initial conversation and how she got in contact with me about some of her goals. First thing being, she wanted to lose fat. That was her primary goal. She pointed out that one of the big things holding her back and that she needed guidance with and support was the consistency side of things, as well as what comes up with traveling and how to adjust those type of stuff. Especially at that point, we're starting to work together right in the summer, so some social based stuff as well. Got some metrics around her height, her weight, as well as where she found me, that type of thing. And I got the process started around how would I onboard her and take her through the process of getting things started. I typically, when I first start working with clients, and if you're completely new to the Dr. Mark method and the channel, the approach, I do something that we like to call the free nutrition report. It essentially takes the pre-qualifying step and what we would do almost as we start working with a client and just put it before you start working with a client. So we get them, and that allows us to see like they're gonna do things, they're gonna put effort into it, they're taking it seriously, that type of stuff. So we got her tracking first for 5 days. To get comfortable with tracking and to really make more awareness around her food choices, but being mindful and aware of those food choices and taking those and turning them into the objective numbers, calories and macronutrients over the the course of a day, which is really going to influence her goals of wanting to get leaner. So we took a look at that. I have these numbers here. So she entered this stuff into a shared sheet that I set up for her. If you've never seen this before, I'm gonna package it up for you at the end of the video here so that you can have your own version of it and you can use it. The biggest thing being, take a look at what she's doing, and everything looked great. I had a feeling, sometimes we know we're being watched, we put our best foot forward, and clearly she was no stranger to tracking, which again, we talked about like, how do we get these clients started? I could see that right away. I knew that right away. I got the sense of that right away. So it wasn't going to make any huge changes as we got started, because her protein intake was right where it needed to be. She was in what appears to be, around a 20% calorie deficit. If we think about 30 kcals per kilogram being maintenance levels, and her, weight was already more or less dropping compared to what she had described. So I knew things were in a good place. And again, I was almost down a pound as she started weighing herself here. So the biggest thing being, I didn't change much at all. And that's what through the free nutrition report process, she kind of raised her hand being like, I want to work with you. It's like, great, let me get a sense of what's holding you back from your goals by doing the first step and getting this moving. And then from there, pointing this out to her. So I collected this data. Then I put it all together in terms of, this is what I was seeing. I talked it over, talked about where I would start her, how I, conduct my coaching, what it would look like, invited her into working with me and what that process would look like in terms of building out the expectations around check-ins, what she needed to change. Again, as I mentioned, didn't change very much, because I knew now that she's working with a coach and having more accountability, we're gonna give the structure and opportunity to work some of this magic and do some of the heavy lifting. And at that point, we've been working with each other for 3 months. She's down nearly 10 pounds and now eating way more food than she did when she started. So again, not giving her way too much to start, doing things slow and steady, giving her, as we went through this process, I added in refeed days. We did a full-on reverse diet, essentially adding food back into closer to maintenance. We navigated social situations, all that stuff. But if I would have told her all of that right at the beginning in this first email describing things, and this isn't the entire email, but it's a huge portion of it, it probably would have been way too much for her. So I got to meet her where we're at, give her what she needs, and only what she needs to get things going, adjust to things, get in the groove. And a lot of it has to do with just setting expectations, not delivering too much, and also meeting her where she's at would be the biggest thing. Outside of that, if you want more information on this process, I have a full-on training in it. All you need to do, you'll get all the sheets, the templates, you'll get the actual email correspondence, so you can plug and play, see how I talk about everything. If you want that process, go to the first link in the description below. You're gonna get instant access to the free nutrition report training that we have in place. You can start running this in your own coaching business. It's a great place to start. And that's it, folks. That is some of the process of creating a nutrition plan for a brand new client. And as great as all those tips are, if you're really serious about starting a nutrition coaching business, you're gonna wanna watch the next video I've linked up right here. Let me break down the entire process of coming up with a nutrition plan for a new client. We're talking about intake process, assessing them, and going through the onboarding process as well. I'm gonna show you how to do that in this next video right here. So check it out now, and I'll see you in the next video.